Didn't like publishers.
I don't know.
The problem is, well, let's get started. Let's call the meeting to order, please, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Megan, if you'll do the roll, please.
Robert Mueller.
Here.
Kathleen Waltz.
Here.
Mary Beth Ferguson.
Here.
Tom Hooper. Sabrina Ford. We have a quorum.
Okay.
Excuse me, I have a legal point to make right now. You called roll, call on question the positions of two of the people that are sitting at the front table. According to the law, the tourism commission is to be made up of one person from the hospitality industry, which is Sabrina Ford, two from the tourism industry, which is Tom, who replaced Leslie, and yourself, Bob, when you came on, and two from business. We have two people that just in roll call that do not represent businesses, Beth and Kathy Walsh. So I contest whether or not they should vote. Quite frankly, they do not fill the requirements of the board.
The binder.
Yeah. So those seats are described in the binder. Kathy is active in the tourism industry because
No, she's not in the tourism industry. There are two people in the tourism industry. Tom replaced Leslie, and Bob came on as a tourism person when he came on. There's two business people, and neither one of those are in business right now.
Okay. I just know that Carla had all those records of
Yep.
who was replacing her.
Sorry. I should have had that probably. Okay, Kathy replaced Jack Dunzy. Bob had replaced Shirley Myers. Mary Beth replaced James Ferguson. Thomas Hooper replaced Leslie Barker, and Sabrina replaced Michael Hankins. Beth Caldwell is the aldermanic representative, so she does not vote at these meetings.
And I believe it says that they serve until replaced. Is that not correct?
They're not eligible right now, but they do not have business positions.
Hotel motel industry. Look at it. That's right. That says hotel motel.
You want to make a copy of the statute?
No, I've got it. I know what it is.
There was something that she had that over in the right-hand margin, it said which kind of a seat that they filled.
Okay. This,
But he's reading that right now, so.
yeah, I know
No,
it wasn't
just-
that one personally.
Is it defined business that you have to have a merchant license business, or isn't operating the license office as a contractor considered a business?
I would think so.
Yeah. And
That's
this
how
would, yeah.
the word written,
Yeah.
so that,
Who is considered not in business?
I guess Mary Beth is what he said.
Beth's in a business. I believe you are working for a business.
That's an employee, she says she's not in business. And I don't think the license office is a licensed business.
It doesn't say that you have to be the owner of the business. It doesn't, because obviously Sabrina is not the owner of the business. But I know, but it doesn't say in any of the rules that it has to be the owner of the business. You can be an employee of the business. Mary Beth is still a member of Audubon Redevelopment Corporation, which is still an active corporation in the downtown area. So are you actively working with the license office?
yes, I am a manager of the license office, under a contract.
And the license office has a business
But
license.
she works for Hank, too.
And The license office has a business license.
I would assume, since any business within the boundaries of the city, defer to our administrator, you have to have a business license to operate.
My understanding of Kathy's position was that as active in the tourism industry, because she's contracted to do tours for the Beckett Rabot House. She just did a tour on Sunday.
So which ones are you questioning, Ron?
Are we questioning two businesses?
I have a question. Would that mean there's three people representing the tourism industry? You, Mel, and Kathy. And it says two people representing the tourism industry. One lodging and two business owners, or two business people.
Well, I'm active in the tourism industry.
Yeah. And so is,
You just said Kathy
So
was
it's
in two,
Tom.
now we have three.
and now you have three.
We
But
have
Tom's
two,
general business, isn't it?
Tom replaced Bus Business and tourism.
we have people that represent all 5 of the positions. We have 2 active in the tourism industry, which is myself and Kathy. We have 2 business, which is Tom and Mary Beth, and we have Sabrina as the hotel motel industry.
Washington's office is an active tourism.
Pardon?
The Washington's office is an active tourism.
No, it didn't. She also sits on the Tourism Advisory Council and is very active in that. She's the chairman of that council, and I would say that would qualify anyone to be active in the tourism industry.
Like that, I was just asking.
Yeah.
So, will you give us who represents what? Of the 5.
Obviously, you want to go?
No, it's great.
No. Obviously, Sabrina represents the hotel industry. Both Kathy and I are active in the tourism industry. We both have sat on the Tourism Advisory Council. I've been past president of that, or chairman. And we have 2 business people, Mr. Hooper and Miss Ferguson, both active in the downtown area.
To be on the tourism council, we don't have to have a business or be represented of anything. There's 9 members. So anyone can be appointed to that.
But that means you are still active in it because
Whether they're in business, whether they're tourism, whether they're anything else. There's no jurisdiction on that. This is a law. For the state.
I recognize that this is a law, Mike.
Okay. I'm going to contact the state and give them their position, what they are, and find out how they feel about it. Decide whatever you think. And the only reason, if you don't mind, the only reason I'm saying that is, I feel that the people that represent the tourism tax should be part of what the law says and be business operating people. They don't have to own the business, they don't have to just work there and work there confidently. Because when the one from the Bolduc House, we recognized her as tourism, she did not own the Bolduc House, but she definitely was a tourism. So I'm just saying that.
What do you mean? What do you believe means to be active in the tourism industry?
Someone like from one of the historic houses.
There's a lot more in tourism.
So anyone that owns a bed and breakfast or a lodging is in the tourism industry. Tom here is in the tourism industry. He gets his business from tourism.
Do you think not being on or being on the Tourism Advisory Council is not being involved in tourism?
Is that what you want to say she represents?
I'm saying that she is a representative of the tourism industry because she's also is chairman of the Tourism Advisory Council.
That's fine. I will put that down. And I will send it to the state.
Do you have a problem with Tom and Mary Beth
No, I have a problem with Tom. That-
representing
that
business?
He either represents one or the other. And he officially can represent either one. You have to pick which one he is.
I just said that he
I have
represented.
a problem with represent a business in this town.
I'll just agree with you. Mary Beth is a managing partner of Audubon Redevelopment Corporation, which for the last 3 years has worked on redeveloping the hotel and getting it up and operating. They're still owners of the building. They're still working on the upstairs of that building. And she is a member of that corporation. Is that not correct, Mary Beth?
Yeah.
So do we pick which corporations you can be in business in or not? It doesn't say, it just says you be a business person. So I'm just going to ask, do you disagree that Kathy is, with her being a part of the tourism industry, being the chairperson of the Tourism Advisory Council in this town, which was also established by the Board of Aldermen?
Well, when she was picked, she was representing general business because she did not own the building, don't have to own the building, but she had a business that she operated, and it was a tourism business.
Do you have any problem with Mary Beth representing a general business interest, or Tom representing general business interest, or myself representing tourism industry?
I figured you represented it because you were affiliated with the historic house. You always wanted someone on the board that represented the historic house. We no longer have anyone, but we thought you represented the historic house. At least I felt that way.
Well, and I also represent the tourism industry by serving on the Tourism Advisory Committee, and have for 4 or 5 years. So even if we exclude Kathy, we still have a quorum, and we can conduct business. It's my intent to move forward. Okay, we have the agenda in front of us. I'd like to make one change. We do not have to have a financial report. We did that at the meeting last week. The purpose of this meeting was to call a special meeting to discuss one issue, because we didn't have a full board, and I thought it was important that everybody have their input when we discuss this matter. So I'd entertain a motion on the agenda.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
I think for purposes of the controversy, I would just assume we
Okay.
have someone else make that motion.
Did you say anything about comments from the public?
Oh, and the other thing is that we will have comments from the public, or citizens to be heard as we normally have, and that'll replace the financial report. So that's the change. So is there a motion to approve the agenda change?
Motion to approve the amended.
Is there a second? Tom seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Approval of previous minutes. This says February 16th. Did you issue the minutes from last week?
I apologize, that is my fault. Yes, these are from last week.
You have the minutes from last week.
I apologize.
They're barring any changes. I'll take a motion on that. Tom, is there a second?
Second.
Mary Beth, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Since we changed the agenda, citizens to be heard, it's customary to state your name and where you're from. I know, even though we know everybody, for those watching on television, it's important that you do so.
Ron Armbruster.
If you'll come up to here so they can see you on television. We typically, I guess, the aldermanic meeting is limited to 5 minutes, discussions for each person. Go ahead, Ron.
I've heard several times, read it in the paper about the increase we've had in hotel motel tax this year and years past, so I'd like to enlighten you a little bit on some numbers. You know, you can quote the statistics however you want, and yes, we probably have had a 2.5% increase in the gross numbers brought into the sales tax, hotel motel tax numbers for 2015. However, what I would like to point out is that at our institution, 2015 compared to 2014, we have increased our average room rate sale by about 2%. So when you take 2% of what I would project 65% of the revenue, because I think at a minimum we're doing 65% of the sales, you come up with a number of about $400 or so. In addition to that, we have been blessed, and Ronnie knows this better than I, with a major industrial construction project that has brought in a significant amount of business. And if I use a conservative number of $80,000 worth of business, that generates about $1,600 in the hotel motel tax. So when you add those two numbers together and look at the sales, we really haven't moved forward from the standpoint of the tourism industry bringing more revenue into the community. We've actually fallen back a little bit. And taking that a step farther, going back to the year 2008, where we showed $22,493 of revenue in the hotel motel tax. Last year we showed $23,163 in revenue, for an increase of actually only about $700. If I calculate it out, which I have, the average room rent per night back in 2008, and compare that to 2015, we have had an average rental room night rate increase of 12.7%. Using that same computation and adding into the construction number again, not only do we not have an increase, in 2008 dollars, 2015 would translate into about $19,700, or about $2,800 less. My point is very simple. You can look at the numbers, and the reality of the matter is we have not had any increase in tourism. We've gone backwards. We've been at this now since 2007, 2008 with a full-time marketing position. We've had 3 different people. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and at this point we are farther behind today than we were back then. I think we need to analyze the expenses we've had in the last 7 or 8 years, find out what has been effective and what has not been effective. You know, you have on your agenda billboards, and you've been in contracts for 3 years, I believe, with billboards. When you look at the amount of money, I don't think there's any way you can justify that amount of expenditure. And I will take this a step farther. I don't believe we no longer do the grant through the state. Back when Mike and I were involved, Jan was involved, Herb Fowler, we were running the hotel motel tax operation as volunteers. We were applying for grants. We were getting grants, and we had much higher numbers than what we have had in the last 7 or 8 years. So I think it's time for us to reevaluate our total marketing program, go back and look at the last 7 or 8 years, see what has or has not worked, and even taking that a step farther, going back to the days of when we were getting our grant and when we were doing things that were bringing more people into town. In addition to that, I would like to say that several weeks ago, I went to the Antique Mall in St. Mary's. During the middle of the day, on a Sunday, there was over 40 vehicles there, and not one brochure inside the business position. When I questioned this, I was told that we could not get those in there. I don't understand that because 15 years ago, I believe, Mike, you put together a display for all the beds and breakfasts in there. And if we can't get the space for free, then I would suggest that perhaps we need to consider renting a booth down there and putting together a display. I also attended Mark Twain, the Lewis and Clark exhibit in Illinois last year, seen brochures of Cape Girardeau, seen brochures of Farmington, no St. Genevieve brochures. I recently was in a conversation with a friend of mine and stopped in Prairieville at the Chinese restaurant. Brochures again of every community but St. Genevieve. I don't believe that we're doing an adequate job. I think the idea of spending this amount of money on billboards, you have absolutely no return on investment, or if you have, it certainly isn't showing up in the numbers. I would also like for you to go back and do research on, if we're going to talk statistics here, go back and check the admissions at the tour houses for the last 10 years and see what those trends are. We're putting out the numbers that make us sound good, but the reality of the matter is those numbers are chosen and picked however you want to make you present a better picture than what the reality of the matter is. Finally, what I would say, if billboards were so good, why aren't more businesses, you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, that you had the Audubon restaurant. Been working on that project. I did not see where you all have entered into a billboard, so if a billboard is really good, then perhaps you all should have had one, I don't know. In addition to that, I would say this. You have a fiduciary responsibility. These are tax dollars to spend them in the best way. I think it's time for us to freeze the spending until we do a deep analysis of what our marketing themes are, go back and analyze again what we've done the last 7 or 8 years, and even farther, back into 14, 15 years, when volunteers here were making the deal work. I have no more to say. If you have any questions, you're welcome.
Anyone else? Jan.
I'm Jan Braun. My wife Kathy and I operate the St. Benbow Bay and about 30 house, 2-bed and breakfast in town. Total of only 14 rooms. I'm not prepared to spend a lot of time talking about this issue, but I know about tabling the question of billboards, and I just want to put in my 2 cents to it. I was in marketing in various angles all my professional life. I had a case one time where a client came to my company, and we got to know each other and had a cool conversation. What made you pick our company to provide this service? He said, well, I was coming from the airport and I saw the billboard. And I thought, that's a good looking deal. I maybe just have to talk to them. I had taken that billboard down 3 years ago, but it was top of mind issue. I can't tell you since these billboards gone up how many times I've probably guessed from the Cape Girardeau mountains to St. Louis. He said, I've been by that exit hundreds of times, never could. And this time I decided to take it. And I can also tell you that everyone else in the company that when you come to St. Genevieve, you start to investigate a one-day trip or an overnight stay, and you end up staying 2 nights, 3 nights, because you discover more and more to it. Again, I think top of mind issue is worthy of spending the money on board.
Anyone else? Mike?
My name is Mike Hankins. Beth and I own and operate the Southern Hotel. I have billboard for 10 years. Never once, one guest stayed with me for 10 years except came for that Sunday book. My question to you is, I would like to ask Can you tell us how much money you spent last year on billboards? If you can you relate that to how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we had to take in order to pay for those filters at 2%? And the last thing is, I'm not in the same business as the Michael Teller. I don't take people in after 9 o'clock at night. I don't do that to the guests, and I don't do that to anyone else. I've spoken to any number of people who own bed and breakfast shops in the state of Missouri. One of them is the president of BBIM. He does not take in, and he's here in this town. He does not take in anyone off the street. So our reservations are made either online or through the telephone, or more online, our guests. And so we don't take someone in that's walking off the street at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. My hotel does. But we don't. And so it doesn't benefit my business in any way. And I can tell you from almost 11 years, 10 and a half years, that I had a billboard, and never once had one person say, "Stay with me, because of that." And someone's going to say that when I was chairman, I spoke for the billboard. As chairman, I spoke for the majority of the business owners in St. Genevieve, because I represented the business owners on the board of the tourism. Did not represent my representatives. I speak now because I'm not on the board, I'm the owner of a business in this town. I am opposed to spending that kind of money on billboards.
Okay. Anyone else?
You should answer the question, how much do you spend on billboards?
We don't, there's not a requirement to do an interaction. It is public record. I think, what was it about?
It would be about $11,000.
$11,000.
Yeah, I didn't know I was getting into all this other. I was only here to see what was going on with the ferry landing, if you all had anything to do with that. And the ferry business is really been bad. So as far as tourism, and our numbers have been down. We have that when we run. We've been unfortunate this past year to lose 2.5, 3 months of high water. I think the winds have been the worst in my 36 years here. We got shut down today at 1 o'clock. We took a chance on the weather. Probably should have run Saturday. Sunday, it was terrible. We wouldn't have no business. It's going to cost me $600 a day or so to run a ferry with wages like they are with the thing. When you take in 100, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to stay in. Just to let you all know, once the weather here and kind of tourism season starts, which for me only about 4 months out of the year, then we're going to run after that. We're kind of running to the farmers now because they're doing stuff that I don't know. We don't have any advertising in the building, and we've got some of those signs on each end that State Highway puts out. I will let you know that we have found the Chamber of Commerce from Prairie Run to, which we belong to, also put out that we were hunting somebody to put out our closed signs over there because we checked in on automatic type stuff. We're over here and they're over there. We don't know if they come on or come off. For those kind of things, they're rather expensive. We can do that with satellite. So we've leaned on MoDOT, the little town of MoDOT. I'm going to go and visit this week, and hopefully we will have a person. There's not a lot of cost that wouldn't go out and put up a sign. Not because I know it aggravates people when they drive down there. I would be very aggravated if I drove down there and find the problem. I wasn't sure if you all are part of the beautification thing or doing anything. It's kind of a tough thing to decide what to do when the road closes at 2 or 3 times a year, that you don't spend money, bad money. When we went back to the state, I was in Jeff City a month and a half ago or 2, trying to get them to raise. Kathy knows that she's on the board there. We haven't had a raise on the money the state puts in to help us offset the cost of running the ferry for probably 8 or 9 years was our last raise. And kind of going the whole $10,000, $15,000 a year, maybe 20. The pilots are double what they were 8 years ago. And we're just lucky to have a young man who's got a young family that's willing to go home at night and be there. For $350 we pay him. On a normal pilot, they would win one over $500 a day. I'm there for $700. We make more than they're. So we're faced with a lot of decisions, and we're even faced with decisions. If we don't get more money from the state, we would close down in the winter months and only run 3 or 4 days a week. So we run weekends, and there's not a lot of tourism, but we run through the week to do for our farm and our people that are working. So it's tough to say, we need help from somebody else here in the city, because it affects the business. I know that when we had the hotel down there, that fair, we were open on Sunday, of course, now they're not open on Sunday. But we had a lot of business from our always come on restaurants, I mean, they know around the spend. I know it's got to affect the business, so anything that you want to do to help boost what money is on there, get something there, then we appreciate it. The Port Authority appreciates it.
Thank you, Ron.
I calculated, because I signed the contract for those, $11,400 for DSW and Lamar. You have yet to tell us how much you're spending for the southbound.
We have eliminated one of the northbounds, and we now only have a southbound and a northbound, both with Drury.
I don't believe you eliminated it. I think the contract is due in March.
It's going down. We are not
Okay,
renewing
but
it.
I asked in the last year.
We will get that number for you. I don't have those
It
financial.
would be 11,400 in the last year for the 2 northbound.
That's approximately right.
What about the southbound?
It's about $5,000 or $6,000 a year. And we are eliminating the one northbound at exit 141 or whatever it is.
So it's $17,400
For,
a year.
no, it's not 17, it's for 1 year. It may have been, I don't know when each contract was let, so I can't tell you what for a given fiscal year, how much it was. There's only an intent to have 2 signs, one southbound, one northbound. Which we think is more effective than to have 2 northbound signs.
And which one did you eliminate?
The one at around exit 142, 141, there at Ozora. There's one at Jackson, and there's one just south of the 55, 67 split. Are there any other further comments? If not, we'll move on to old business, which is, did you get that?
She's looking for the numbers right now.
Just, is that for the?
That's the southbound.
Let's see if I have that, still have that financial report. Well, we will talk about what the cost of the particular billboard is that is under consideration tonight, and that is the Drury billboard number 1 northbound, which would be the one down at Jackson, which is the one that we've had for several years. Last year, we also changed the vinyl on that sign. I would just make one comment. We still do a grant program with the state of Missouri. It's not all funded out of the Tourism Tax Commission. It doesn't have to be funded out of the Tourism Tax Commission. Unfortunately, the state changed their rules a couple of years ago, and they base how much, remember we used to be able to get $25,000 a year. Now it's about $11,000 a year. Because it's based on rooms available. The big towns got things changed, and we've been able to get the maximum of the grants that were available to us for the last 2 years since they made that change. And it's a variety of topics. They have it broken down into 3 categories, and we operate in the first 2, I believe.
Yes. There's still you're talking about the state
Yeah.
grant here. There's still a grant for advertising assistance, but it's at the peak it was about 25,000, and now that amount is probably 5,000 that we're eligible for. Because
I'm curious when you mentioned not to cut anyone's time, but what is the break on rooms if you're short of rooms downtown? How many are you short?
No,
it's not just downtown, it's through, so it would include the microtel and all the rooms downtown. I think it's between 80, maybe somewhere right in that area,
Quite a bit.
until you can jump up to the next level.
How many are we short?
80,
We're short 80?
Yeah.
Jump up to the next one?
yeah. It's been a while since I looked at it, but that's probably about right. Come on, Jan, you can double up. You can double down, right?
Oh.
We lost 13, and not trying to say anything about Auburn, but I still don't understand, it's TIP money, how you guys could not have put the short building back at the hotel and not have them. We get calls every day. You know, you can call Jamie, not every day, but 2 or 3 times a week, to show how there's a phone number. People that married in St. Louis and one in your same room and got, and everybody, we got some nice bed and breakfast in the community. I'm gonna say that on the podium, we really do. But everybody doesn't want to come back and stay in bed and breakfast. And I think you guys missed the boat.
Well, thank you for your input.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. The old business,
Get people in your place and downtown.
the old business that's on the table this evening is the Drury Billboard number 1 northbound, which is located at Jackson. Exit on the right, coming north. And the proposal is to, would you?
So the renewal on that sign is $5,700. We just had new artwork put on it about a year ago, so it's in good shape for the next several years. It's actually, the renewal itself is $6,000, and they give us a discount for
One-time
full
payment.
payment, yeah.
But you're still allowing what I call snipes for special events?
Yes, we offer that.
So that benefits garden walk or things like that?
The ones in particular that take advantage of it are the Jour de Fête and the Rural Heritage Day. Garden Walk has done it maybe 1 year in 3, and then also the Christmas Festival has done it a couple of times. But it's up to them if they want to do that, and the larger festivals generally do.
And they pay?
Yes, they pay that separately,
What's it, about 250,
about 300.
300? Okay, so we have I'll entertain any kind of motion here. Motion to approve or to disapprove the purchase of this for another year.
I disapprove.
Well, at this point, we have to make a motion.
I motion to disapprove.
Is there a second?
I'd like to have some further discussion on that with the council. Maybe look at, present some alternatives, because right now, I'm new to the committee, I don't know anything of it. I know that we just have, right here, for that is, a large percentage of our budget. It's almost a quarter of our budget in one item. And it seems like we have that, the media, we have billboards and media, and that's it.
Well, I would comment that the total marketing approach is not just what Tourism Advisory or Tourism Tax Commission.
I'm not familiar with all of the whole marketing package, because I know this is a portion thereof, and maybe that I need to get more familiar with some of that. And I'm not necessarily against the idea at all, I just require a little more information
Okay.
to make a sound decision.
The only thing I'm going to ask is, at what point do we lose the billboard?
This company has been very gracious with us. We're supposed to approve it by the end of March. I probably could ask them for a special favor and ask them to give us a couple of weeks grace period if we felt that that was what we needed to do.
It's fine with me. If somebody wants to have a session to discuss the particulars of that and come forward with other alternatives. But once you lose it, it's very difficult to get them back, because we got the southbound one because of the fact that New Madrid lost that and didn't renew it.
So you have a motion and not a second. I don't know what happens.
Well, it's not a motion, we won't vote on it.
Unless you have another motion.
Is there another motion?
Motion to approve?
We have to vote on the first one.
No, there's
It
no
never-
second, there's no
It was
second.
not seconded.
No. I'll entertain then a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then we'll have discussion.
So I can give you some information that I brought with me this evening. I thought it might be helpful for the members to see information about how outdoor media, in particular billboards, which are listed on here as bulletins. This CPM is cost per thousand, comparing various forms of marketing, and you can see some are far over to the right side of the spectrum, being more expensive, cost per thousand. You can see the bulletins, which is about halfway down, and it's the first orange bar. The median cost per thousand on typical outdoor media in that category is about $5.21. Our billboards here, and for those who are not very familiar with marketing and advertising expenses, billboards are tracked based on the average daily traffic count that goes past that location. And so on the interstate, obviously, is where you're going to have higher traffic counts. The billboard that we're discussing this evening, that you have a motion on the table for, is for the one at mile marker 107. And the daily effective count of traffic that MoDOT regulates at that site is, the daily effective count is 13,692. Based on our cost for, annual cost for this billboard, that comes out to a cost per thousand, or a CPM, of $1.33 per thousand. So as you can see, our not only are billboards an effective, cost-efficient means compared to other advertising expenses, ours is especially competitive in price compared to, and this is a national average. So if you got this same billboard up closer to St. Louis, it would probably be $15,000 to $18,000 per year. If you got it just north of the Highway 67 juncture, where half the people are, taking off to go down towards Poplar Bluff, you would have probably $11,000 to $12,000 on that same billboard. Because we're focusing on about an hour away from St. Genevieve on the south side, and just under 30 minutes on the north side, or specifically where the traffic count drops, when they're coming southbound on 55, we're getting the biggest bang for our buck from these two particular ones. And as Bob...
Statistics, when you're throwing statistics out there, you said 13,692. Did you check with the highway department to find out how many of those are commercial trucks per day?
Well, the actual count is 20,150, and then they apply a formula to that to get the daily effective count. So the lower number that I used of 13,692 is the more conservative of those. The higher number is actually 20,150 is the actual traffic count.
What percentage of that is over-the-road truckers and commercial trucks?
Is that what they're using to factor in?
It's just strictly based on the number of adults over the age of 18.
Puts out a traffic count for commercial trucks. And in southern Jefferson County, it's about 5,000 a day. I don't know what it is down the interstate. What I'm trying to tell you, or what my point is you're using a gross statistic, but I don't believe it's an accurate statistic for cars. I think it includes the over-road truckers. So I'm just pointing out to you, again, you're bringing a statistic, but I don't believe that represents the whole picture, because I think a large percentage of those are over-the-road truckers.
What percentage? Which number, when you calculated your cost, CPM, was it the higher number or the lower number?
Oh, the lower number. Yeah, I use the lower number.
The lower number was used to calculate the CPM, not the higher number.
I'm not.
And what's the difference, what was the difference between, what's the difference between the higher and lower? many
The
thousand?
higher is 20,000, the lower is 13,692.
So that's a
Seven.
$6,500, which is more than the 5,000 that would be on,
Well, you're assuming that, but I don't believe you said that.
well,
Truckers have to go on vacation too.
Yeah, they sure do, don't they?
what's the northbound number? Or-
So Bob just asked what that similar figure is on our cost per thousand on, it's actually the southbound Reed, which is close to the Festus interchange there. So that one is a total traffic count of 28,523, and the daily effective count is 19,381. And based on our cost for that sign, our daily cost comes down to $18.33, so that's 94 cents per thousand. So again, if you're looking at, just based on our cost compared to national averages for marketing costs and outdoor media, we're definitely very cost effective on this. And so the average between the two signs, and for what it's worth, is $1.14 cost per thousand. So one's $1.33 and one's 94 cents.
Tom, what questions do you have?
I'm just trying to, get a good grip on this. The mechanism here is slightly different from what I'm used to in another town that was tourism based. We have a lot of rack cars and things like that were effective there.
We do have a variety of things. We do billboards, we do rack cards, we do
Radio, we do
radio.
search engine marketing, as you know. Yeah, print ads. So our marketing program is called an Integrative Marketing Communications Program. And I can certainly give you
I haven't
numbers.
seen any rack cars other than our normal flyers, so it's not, I haven't seen those in the area. I travel the state about as much as anybody has.
We have a distribution, is it Madden or who does our distribution of the rack cards?
Well, we have done that on a specific contract basis, usually out of this
There's
committee.
no ongoing.
No, it's usually out of this committee, and we've done it on a 90-day window or a 30-day window with the company that puts them into those little hotel lobby racks.
I have all of that information from that company here.
Mhm.
And a package for everybody here. And I think it's something we also should review as something, as an activity this committee should be involved with, and use that as part of our integrated marketing. And use this because there's possibilities, and you were talking about, cost per person. If we put rack cards into about 60 locations on the I-55 corridor, it works out to approximately $135 a month to be in every hotel along the Interstate 55 corridor with a distribution of that's 15,000 flyers over the course of a year, which is about $135 a month. And it goes on. There's, depending on where you want to go with them, you can get in all of the St. Louis, everything. Actually, it works out the Interstate 55 hotels with printing 10,000 brochures. The cost of printing and distribution is $113.40 a month to every one of those.
What was the $135 per month?
Actually, I was wrong. It was $113.40. I have that information here. I can pass this around to everyone in the St. Louis attractions. I think I extrapolated out on a yearly cost, and it turns out that over 150 locations works out to
$1,600 if it's $135 or $115.
well, no, this is broken up. depending on where the distribution is, on a cost per basis. And the greater St. Louis area, which is the Interstate 55, all the hotels, and all the programs is $550 a month, which reaches 10 million people over the course of the year, which is about
That's if they pick it up.
That's 8,000. That's just like every car driving by. It's 10 million people, just like there's a certain number
Right.
of cars, but there's 10 million people that stay at the hotels during that time that these will be presented in. So it's still on a cost basis. But it's another thing that we need to explore.
And we have done that, this is the CTM program that
Mhm.
this committee has participated in from time to time in the past. And we generally have done it on a seasonal basis, thinking that it's probably one of those things that we can add on at the slow times of year.
Right.
But certainly, I mean, the rates are reasonable enough.
Right, and we basically, if you break it down, there's different programs for the Interstate 55 hotels and all the St. Louis, just their attractions, including cost of printing 15,000 brochures, it's $225 a month. If you want to do just the hotels in St. Louis and the hotels on Interstate 5, they were set at $505 a month on an annual basis, which includes printing of 40,000 brochures. So I have all that information. I'm going to share that with everybody in the group. I have extra copies of all the programs.
Unfortunately, you're kind of new to this committee, and I know Sabrina's set, normally we have a tourism advisory council, which talks about or advises the city on how to spend the funds that they have. We have a fiduciary responsibility to spend out the funds that come in through the lodging tax.
Well, I'd asked several times for details about this program, and they were not provided, so I went ahead and researched it and got that information for us, so as another layer and things that we can do.
So that at the highest amount, just to kind of play out this to its logical conclusion, at the highest amount of $505 a month, that would be $6,000.
Right, it'd basically be very similar to the cost of one of the
Right.
billboards for a year.
So my
So
point.
it's a matter of just of comparing apples and apples.
Absolutely.
And then there's just as an alternative that had not been presented while I've been here on the committee.
So my point was going to be that even if the committee decided with this new suggestion to go to the maximum level that
Right.
you just suggested, that's $6,000 for the annual program.
Correct.
You would still have that amount available. This is the
Right.
report that I presented at the meeting last week.
Right, and I know there are some other funds available.
No, it's this fund. It's TTC.
Yes, I understand, additional funds than the money we're talking about for the billboard.
Right, there's,
Additional budget.
This, the
In the budget,
TTC
yeah.
funds. I don't want you to confuse additional funds
No,
with
no,
other.
There's additional monies in TTC.
In TTC, you're right.
That could be spent on a program like this, in addition to
The
the
billboard.
billboards.
Exactly.
It's just basically, we need to, use every dollar to its best advantage.
that's
We have a
always
responsibility to do
that's
that.
correct.
And we need to explore all of the options and not put everything in one place. Fortunately, we have a slight budgetary surplus that we've decided that we need to find some places for that.
Yep.
And we just need to make sure we do the best job in providing the most.
Right. I would ask again, if you all can make it, that don't sit on the Tourism Advisory Committee to attend those meetings also. I mean, it's kind of difficult with two entities.
Right.
And how these get developed back in when lodging tax was put in, the state of Missouri has very specific rules about how you manage that money, and that's why we're here. But I think to get the total picture, it would be helpful if you also, I think Tom, you and Sabrina are the only ones that don't sit on that committee. So it's the same night, and just invite you to sit in and hear what's going on. There being no motion to approve?
I thought you had a
Oh,
motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
There was a second.
There was a second. Okay, let's have discussion.
I think that was what Tom was doing.
Well, okay. Is there any further
Addition.
discussion? Okay.
I didn't hear this,
You vote by roll call.
but we always do.
Yep.
Okay. Robert Mueller,
I vote aye.
Kathleen Watts,
Yes.
Mary Beth Ferguson,
Yes.
Tom Hooper,
Yes.
Sabrina Ford,
Opposed.
Yep. And the motion carries.
Affirmative.
That's fine. Okay, is there any other, I think this was a meeting just to discuss this one. We haven't publicized any other agenda items, so,
However, I will certainly, we can bring that forward. I can
Yep.
do some additional discussing. Oh, great.
I would just ask, when does the other Drury sign?
So that's excellent. So that comes up for renewal in July, and that's the southbound one that we grabbed away from the
And I'm sorry,
Imagine.
I coughed, I didn't hear what you
Yep.
said.
Oh, he asked, when does the second billboard renew? And it renews in July. So we'll have 2 meetings to discuss that and decide.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thomas, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you from the community for coming and discussing it.